Folks, and Howard is presiding today because our friend Lou is home quite ill, and well, I'll talk about that in just a moment. So Howard, it's all yours.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
All righty. Delaware County, Jack Early, not with us. Lou Jones is excused. Pat Delmeter.
Here.
Steve Hood.
Here.
Wilson County, we have Jack Farquhar.
Here.
Jack, it's nice to have you with us. Jack had some valve problems, some kind of plumbing or other. I don't know what it was. But
He's part cow now.
Huh?
He's part cow now.
Part cow? Okay. Nice to have you, Jack. Howard Heim.
Here.
Joe Dunham.
Here.
Okay. Dunham's excused. Joyce Belidi.
Here.
Myself. I'm here. Al Dunham is excused. He had to work. Gary Wicks.
Here.
Tom Pasquarelli is excused. Had to meet with a stockbroker or something. I can't give the details for him. Vicky Schwartz.
No doubt. Here.
Trish Green.
Here.
Jared Gilston. Is Jared working today, Trish? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll say yes, but I'm not.
All right. Sid Chase.
Here.
Brian Knapp is excused. Dr. Markowitz is excused. He had a teacher class today. Dana Wygand is flying without a doubt. Harry County, Andy Cuccinello.
Here.
Ed Brand. Not here. Bill Beavers.
Here.
Nice to have you. Mark Zeech.
He's here, I'm not sure where.
He's here. He'll be back. Okay. And Dr. Leinhardt.
He's out with Mark Z.
He's out with Mark Zeek. Okay. Well, he'll be coming in sooner rather than later, I'm sure. Mr. Vice Chairman, we have a quorum, sir.
Okay. All right.
Approval of the approval of the meeting. The minutes.
We got, anybody want to go on the meeting? Minutes from the previous meeting?
It'll be June 20th, our June 20th meeting that was sent to everybody.
So
To be approved as read.
Okay, what was that? Okay. And the second is Pat, okay. Motion made and seconded that the minutes of the June 20th meeting be approved as presented.
All in favor?
Opposed or abstaining? Nice have it. Our guests, we have some nice guests today. We always have nice, our guests are always nice. What the heck? Howard Hughes is here, and Deb Cuffs. They're educators. So please treat them with, respect and all that stuff. Steve Anderson, sir, from the Flying Company. Beth McGowan. Tony Agresta, here. There he is. Welcome one and all. Did I leave anybody out? It was inadvertent if I did.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, no, I got you. I got you and Gus, no problem. Okay, our guests are certainly welcome as always. Everybody got a copy of the correspondence, quite a bit of it, since it covers a period from last June 19th. Any questions about the correspondence? Comments on it? Oh, I have to call your attention about the correspondence. I'll pick that up as soon as I get to the Secretary's report. But I had an interesting commentary on cyberspace. Okay, Chairman's report is next. Do you have any reports to report?
No report from me, no.
Okay.
Secretary's report.
Secretary's report. We have a nomination for the REMAC. The REMAC has already approved it, but pro forma, the regional council has to also. Dr. Steve Okrabi from Montgomery County, who is on the ED staff at St. Mary's Hospital in Amsterdam, would like to rejoin our REMAC. And I will make that motion that he be approved. The REMAC doctors have already approved him. Do I have a second?
Sure.
Made and seconded that Dr. Okrabi be approved to serve as the physician on the REMAC. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Okay. The Fulton County EMS Advisory Council has nominated Yvonne Hart of Nathan Latour Hospital to replace Bonnie Lumen. Yvonne, I presume, is an RN, Jill. Do you know Yvonne?
Yeah, I know Yvonne.
Yeah. Okay. I thought she was going to be here today, but maybe Jill could serve as to advise her that, what I need to get actually is her mailing address and her email address, and then we'll make sure she's in the loop for all the emails.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that she be accepted as a member of the Regional Council, replacing Bonnie Lumen, who has retired, and representing Nathan Latour Hospital. Sid.
All in favor?
Aye.
Speak up.
Carried.
This is a very self-effacing group. We don't, they don't have to speak up. On June 21st, Tom B. Hanna of the Department of Health advised us that the Key Punch contract for paper CCRs has not yet been approved by the Office of General Services. It still hasn't, to the best of my knowledge, unless maybe Joe knows something to the contrary. No. On July 22nd, we were advised that both Worcester and Skenevis had been approved for the EPCR program. On July 23rd, we received word that on July 5th, bear with me on the timeline, ENCON personnel at the Little Sands Point campsite on Pasico Lake had successfully resuscitated a 52-year-old female patient following cardiac arrest. Thank God for that. The same patient was subsequently transported to Nathan Latour Hospital by the Speculator Ambulance Corps. While en route, she coded once again and was successfully resuscitated, this time by Speculator personnel. She arrived at the hospital fully alert and oriented. Yeah, that's wonderful. It is, I agree. On July 30th, we received a request from Karen Hinckley, the Grand Gorge Rescue Squad, who was attempting to locate a type of discontinued Laerdal pediatric ambu bag for use in the care of a young patient living in their agency area. I'm not sure why they wanted this particular bag, but there's a good reason for it. The request was forwarded to all AAREMS and REMAC members. I don't know what the outcome was. I never did hear. On August the 8th, we received from the Department of Health a supply of blank PCRs that we had ordered a month before. On August the 12th, we sent CLI course information to all AAREMS and REMAC members and all others usually receiving the minutes. A link to this information was also posted on the regional website. On August 16th, we received word of the annual Pulse Check Conference of the New York State Volunteer Ambulance and Rescue Association to be held at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Suffern from October 17th to the 20th of this year. And there's a number to call for information. We posted that on the website also. On August the 8th, we received a request from Martha Galkey at the Department of Health for certain information from each of our EPCR agencies, and she repeated that request on August 26th. The request has been made to each of the agencies currently on record as using PCRs. More about that a little bit later. On August 29th, Michael Taylor of the Department of Health presented an overview of the EPCR program to us at our office. He discussed the Department of Health plans for electronic data collection and CQI. As of September 17, 6 of our 12 EPCR agencies have been contacted and provided with state bridge accounts. So they are able to enter the state bridge using their username and password. I hope to have, no later than Tuesday of next week, I hope to have the other 6 all online to receive the state bridge accounts. Then I have to run something called validation reports for each of them, etc., and send copies to the state. On September 9th, we traveled to SUNY Cobleskill to meet with Howard regarding the proposed CLI course. We had the opportunity to see the EMS teaching facilities there. Marvelous place, marvelous facilities. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. September 16th, the usual pre-course paperwork was sent to all CLI course applicants, a total of 16 individuals, so I still have a full report on that in just a moment. On September 15th, we received, this is the one I wanted to tell you about, we received an email from an agency member, this is under correspondence, inquiring about her EMT number. The email was received by us at 14:02 hours on the 15th of September. It was sent to us on April 15th at 17:58 hours. We received it September 15th. It was sent to us April 15th. Now, think about that for a minute. Where was it in the meantime? You know? Okay.
It was in Utah in the NSA.
It was tax day.
Did she send it through the Russian post office?
Isn't that incredible? I've never had that happen before. Of course, it could happen very easily when you stop thinking about cyberspace. We take cyberspace so much for granted, but really, it's a tenuous way of doing business, even though it's very common. Yeah, sent to us on April 15th at 2 minutes to 6 in the evening, and we received it 2 minutes after 2 in the afternoon on the 15th of September. Much too late to give her any information about her EMT number. She probably wonders who are these people that aren't getting back to me. Strange. On September 16th, the auditors from Groover & Scott, which is now called the Bonadio Group, and has been taken over by a larger group, they're at the regional office for the usual yearly audit. Their report will be prepared in a timely manner for distribution to us all, and we will receive, without a doubt, a very timely invoice from them. It costs us about $8,500 a year for that audit. It was mandated by the state. That's why we do it. Otherwise, There are a lot of other things we could do with the 8,500. Notice of enforcement actions have been received. A gentleman in Holly, New York, which is on the fairly simple western part of the state. A gentleman from the Bronx, New York, both of them suspended, with suspension stayed. The gentleman from Holly got a civil penalty of $2,000. The gentleman from the Bronx, $4,000. And I'll read this one in full. It's our policy not to read in full except if they're local or of unusual interest. The Atlantic Steamer Fire Company from Oyster Bay, New York. That's in Long Island. Their organization, or presumably their ambulance service, was suspended for 1 year, effective 7/22/13. The suspension was stayed, and they were assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. I don't know what they did, but they violated Part 800.21F, .23A, D, 26A, 26A Section 8, 26A Section 9, and 26B Section 6. Only $2,000. Sounds like they got off easy. Anyway, that's my report, sir.
Okay.
The treasury report. Okay, the breakdown is here, as always. And a printed report of the cash flow and balance sheet is here for all members, as usual. Lou is not with us today, unfortunately. But Howard and Sid are here, and they received the detailed cash flow balance sheets and register reports, plus copies of canceled checks, and their report is okay. And now I just mentioned about Howard. Howard is homesick with double pneumonia.
Lou Howard.
Lou. Howard is here.
Howard.
Give us a good call.
I'll be all right.
Bill is home.
Reminded me to take those pills this morning, and I didn't. Lou is homesick with double pneumonia.
I remind him 2 minutes later he forgets. So.
Lou called me 2 days ago, and he was so ill I didn't recognize his voice on the phone. He could hardly talk, and said he didn't think he was going to be able to make the meeting. And I said, "My God, what's happening?" So he's down with pneumonia. He says he knows who gave it to him in the hospital emergency department. That's a small consolation. In any event, talked to him this afternoon, just at lunchtime, and he sounds a whole lot better. Sounds a whole lot better in just the last 2 days, and that's encouraging. But he wanted to be remembered to everybody. Said he's very sorry he couldn't be here. Now we have the saga of our payments from the state. On April the 3rd, we sent Lisa DeLong the quarterly council contract deliverables, a voucher, and so forth. And the same day, we sent her the program agency deliverables. May the 8th, let's see, May 21st, we received a check for the program deliverables. We're still waiting for the council deliverables of $9,886.20. On June the 6th, we forwarded the usual end-of-session paperwork for instructor update. On July 3rd, we forwarded her the quarterly program deliverables for the next succeeding quarter for $29,684.81. That's for the period from April 1 through June 30th. The same date, the council deliverables for $6,017.03. So those two checks, plus the $98.86.20 from March 31st, we're still waiting for. But we should not feel that it's anything personal, because apparently right across the board they have paid no council deliverables or program deliverables. They keep telling us that the money's there, has been encumbered, and it should be paid any day. Stay tuned. Now, a housekeeping matter. The auditors brought it to my attention. At our December 20th meeting last year, we passed a resolution that a monthly compensation of $500 be awarded to Joyce for her additional duties of monthly PCR screening, in addition to her regular salary, as recognition of screening duties performed outside of regular work hours and detailed on her timesheets, and she's been doing that right along. We took that out of fee for service. Our auditors have advised this resolution should be modified to allow this extra compensation to be processed as an additional salary payment in order to allow for processing of payroll taxes. They said that there's two ways of paying the taxes on it. You can do it through a 1099 at the end of the year, or you could do it through payroll. It's better with payroll because Joyce already is a regular employee, and she said, the auditor said that sometimes the IRS takes a little exception to 1099s being issued for regular employees. So I The motion should be, I can't really make this motion because of a conflict of interest, but the motion in addition to that resolution should be that this payment shall be made from the payroll account to allow for payment of all applicable payroll taxes. So I'd ask someone to consider making that motion.
So moved.
Okay?
Second? Second.
I'm sorry, who's second?
Pete?
Oh,
Pat.
Pat.
All in
Okay.
favor?
Couldn't see that.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Joyce and I will abstain from that one because we're
Okay,
staff.
carried.
Okay. And the motion on the treasurer's report.
Okay,
Move it be accepted.
second? Everybody want to say
Bill.
it? Bill.
I'll second
Okay. Andy.
Andy?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried.
Joyce and I abstain on that one also. Okay.
Committee reports.
Regional Program Agency Committee now has nothing to report.
Okay, very good. Training committee?
Training Committee.
Okay, training committee, that's a saga also. The CLI course, we have 16 enrolled, that's more than I thought we were gonna get. 8 of them are from our region, 8 of them are from New York City. Let's see, we have Bronx, Brooklyn, Glendale, Rotterdam Junction, Island Park, Leeds, and Cairo.
Wow.
So,
Holy mackerel.
anyway, from all over, but a number of them from the city. That's next weekend, the 28th and 29th. Everybody's been advised of their lectures that they have to do, their demonstrations they have to do. So anyway, that's all set. Howard has been gracious in granting us the use of the college and the facilities there. So I think that's all set. The Cardiac Teaching Day, that is another saga. We have, if you remember, everything was all set in June. However, in the meantime, Rich Beebe emailed me in July, I think it was the end of July, saying that he was not going to be able to do it. So then, and it took a long time to try to find somebody. Actually, he had said that Sean McGonaghy, anyway, that he would do it, and it took a long time for me to get in touch with him. I had asked Rich for his contact information, never got it, and finally I did get it, and then he was on his honeymoon. So anyway, that is now all set. I have the flyer here. The only thing it doesn't have is Sean's little resume, and I'm waiting by email for that. But the rest of the flyer is ready. If you'd like to take one, you're welcome to it. That's Saturday, November the 2nd. And I apologize for the delay, but it was one of those. So we're all set with that. Yeah, pass them around. That's good. And other than that,
We're charging a fee of $60, which is the
same as last year.
And Holiday Inn will offer a considerably reduced room rate for people who want to stay here overnight in connection with that.
Yeah, if you want to stay, you just tell the front desk that you're coming to the AAREMS Teaching Day, and they will give you the rate.
This flyer, as soon as we get this resume, and we're going to get it very quickly,
I
as soon as we
hope.
get this resume, we will, one way or the other we will. As soon as we get this resume, I will put this on our website with a link to the flyer, and I will send this out by email to everybody who normally receives our minutes. That's quite a few people. That's over 100 people, representing most of the agencies in the region. And so there'll be a good wide spread on it.
And I really want to thank Howard for this, because he was the one that was instrumental
Howard was our
in finally
facilitator.
getting
Yes, definitely
Sean
our
and-
facilitator.
getting things together. So, and I think that's pretty much it as far as training at this point.
Transportation.
Transportation and standards. As of this writing, we have heard nothing further from Sharon Springs, Hancock, or Sydney relative to their earlier inquiries. Let me give you a quick rundown on what's happening with our friends in Racket Lake, New York. On May the 13th, we received paperwork from them requesting a transfer of operating authority. Dana Jonas tells me it's not a CON, it's a TOA. Okay, the paperwork was incomplete. June 10th, we received the application back, still no fee. June 11th, June 18th, we got the check finally. The application paperwork came back a little bit later. Between one thing and another, Dana Jonas took a look at the fitness and competency paperwork, found some deficits in the way the paperwork was filled out. So we notified Racket Lake and got some paperwork back from them on September 12th. Final clarifications forwarded to Dana on September 13th. September 18th, yesterday, he advised of further information necessary for completeness of the original application. Despite the fact that Sid and I thought that the application was complete, and Lou, Dana said, no, it really isn't. So his request was passed on to Racket Lake yesterday. And since the DOH 3777, which is the initial application form, was not complete, the timeline for regional approval has been reset and won't begin again until we accept a completed application. So right now, Racket Lake has to fill out and send back to us an application correcting the deficits that Dana found, and then we can discuss it at our October meeting. So the earliest we can have the vote now is at our November meeting. In any event, that's where we stand on it.
So what exactly is the point of the region reviewing these before they go to the state?
Oh, yeah, I see your point.
If Dana's always going to kick them back and say they're incomplete.
Mm-hmm. What I've been doing is we look at them, and like I said, I didn't find anything incomplete about it, but Dana did. And so I've been sending them at the same time as we look at the applications originally received. I send a copy to Dana and say, this is for your review. And if he finds something, obviously it can't go any further unless something is corrected one way or the other. So that's where we stand anyway. He only looked at the fitness and competency stuff. He had the original application, but he only looked at the fitness and competency stuff originally, and didn't look at until he received the F&C stuff back, completed. He didn't look at the application, the 3777, if you will. And he looked at that application and said, oh, there's some problems here too. He outlined the problems, and I cut and pasted those over to Racket Lake, and there we go. So that's where we stand with Racket Lake. We're in a holding pattern with Racket Lake. And that serves my report.
Okay. Next, the council report.
Okay. Thank you, Howard.
Mm-hmm.
State Council will be meeting on October 2nd and 3rd, which is a little less than 2 weeks from now.
Is that Albany, Mark?
That's going to be in Troy at the Hilton Garden Inn. I wanted to update you, although I don't have a lot of information to give you, but there have been a series of 3 discussions over the summer with Article 30 stakeholders and the governor's office and legislative aides who have been at every meeting. I was not part of any of those meetings, so I can't really tell you what has been the discussion, except it's about the 2 proposals that have been in the last 2 budget cycles to modify Article 30. Lee is going to talk about that in her staff report at the State Council meeting, so I will have more for you about that, but there have been 3 meetings to which I was not invited and did not attend. As you all know or remember, from the last State Council meeting, which was in January, I'm chairing a tag looking into the operational and financial impacts of this proposed, well actually it was a CMAQ motion that passed CMAQ that did not pass SEMSCO, was ruled out of order by the chair, imagine that. Anyway, We had a conference call earlier this week. Over the summer, actually in the spring, we developed a 13 question survey that many of you received. And we had a very good return on that. I'll share the numbers with you in a minute. The deadline for the surveys to be sent in was July 31st. So I got the bulk of them in the first week or 10 days of August, sent from Mary Ramo. We did get a second packet later on in August of, so the first one was 140 some, and the second packet was another 37. Thanks to Beth and her partner Michael Butler, both of them IT wizards of fairly high order, put together two spreadsheets actually that was color coded, and they're quite big, and Beth is trying to get them onto at least a board like this that I can present next week or at the state council meeting. At our conference call, we decided that with the summary of the data that I sent out to all the TAG members, we decided that we had to create an operational impact assessment. And Ron Hassan, who is now the chair of the systems committee, and I have been working on that. And I created a sheet of suggestions to the CMAC and the SEMSCO. We just finished, I put the finishing touches on both these documents last night. I sent them to Ron Hassan as the systems chair. He got back to me this morning with an email and said he thinks they're okay. He wants me to run them by Lee and Dan before I send them out to the TAG later on today. So this is draft information, but I want to share some numbers with you. And as long as you understand that this is a draft document still until the TAG approves it, and then I will get it out to all of the systems members, and we will present this information at the systems committee. Just to give you a quick summary, we had a spreadsheet from the department of all ambulance services, whether or not they had controlled substances, and then we were able to develop a spreadsheet that just showed those services that do not have controlled substances. So there were 265 transporting ALS agencies that do not have a controlled substance license. Of those, we got 140 out of those 265 agencies. They responded to the survey. That's 52.8%, which I think is a pretty good number.
You have to note that's different than the 170 he received,
Right.
because 17 agencies that already had controlled substances submitted surveys. About 7 agencies didn't bother to put their names on the survey so we could match them up to the
Couldn't tell where they
spreadsheet.
were from.
And there was a handful of ALS first response units that answered as well.
The ALS response sheet that we got from the department was all of those agencies that have controlled substances, and didn't include agencies, ALS first response agencies that do not. So we kind of discounted those responding agencies in the survey. So anyway, we got 140 responses. 71% are at the paramedic level, and I'll read you 70.7%. 35.9% are at the critical care level, and 13.5% have both critical cares and paramedics. 48% utilize another EMS agency to provide controlled substances. 47% claim to be working on a plan to obtain controlled substances. 63% believe controlled substance administration is required in 2% or less of their patient responses. 17% of agencies state they will drop to a non-ALS level if the motion is adopted by the SEMSCO, which reads that agencies that operate at the critical care level or higher carry and administer controlled substances according to the approved protocols. And for controlled substances, that includes benzodiazepines and narcotics. And I put a note on here, this is at the head of our impact statement. While this language doesn't appear in the motion, it was the clear intent of the CMAQ during the discussion that the intent of this motion, according to the discussion at CMAQ, is to require those ALS services unable or unwilling to obtain a CS license to revert to BLS practice only. I know many of you are upset about that, and you're not alone around the state. So part of this document was to craft a statement about that, which I will not read to you because it has not really been approved by the department. So I just want to give you the numbers. There was also at the end of the survey a request for a narrative reply about any positive or negative impacts of the motion on services in the area and the region. And there were many long and thoughtful responses to this question. Some were strongly opposed, yet others were in favor. Almost 51% of respondents claimed the proposal would have a negative impact, and 34.5% would claimed a positive impact. Interestingly, 5.6%, that was 8 services, offered some alternatives to the motion as it stands. The summary of the positive comments were, it's an excellent idea to have everybody have controlled substances, and it provides a high level of care. It's the recognized standard of care, and our EMS systems need to be progressive, and ALS providers should be able to stop seizures. The summary of negative impacts is a bit longer. There's the unfunded cost of security devices, in-house and in vehicles. However, the cost of medicines is pretty much a non-factor. Many respondents indicated the liability of possessing controlled substance as a major factor. Small services with low call volumes and few ALS providers are unwilling to accept responsibility for the requirements of a controlled substance license. Some services only have one ALS provider who would have to be the agent with no other checks and balances. Number 3, for those services unable or unwilling to obtain a controlled substance, the denial of routine ALS to a relatively large portion of the local population versus providing pain control to a much smaller percentage of the population is a concern. For those number 4, for those services unable and unwilling to obtain controlled substance, the large investment they've already made in ALS equipment, heart monitors, etc., would be for naught. Number 5, some services report being unable to apply for controlled substance because their medical directors and or their local hospital will not cooperate. There are medical director concerns over security, and at least one hospital has stopped providing controlled substance to any further agencies. Number 6, the investment in time, paperwork, and the responsibility of possessing controlled substance was felt to be onerous by agencies that have either very short transport times or who have an adjoining agency that currently responds with them to provide controlled substance. Number 7, the additional burden placed on remaining ALS services would stress local systems, resulting in operational delays and potential for some patients to go untreated. I'm planning to send this document along with an electronic copy of the spreadsheets and a summary that I made of the actual data, which I have here. I bring this to your attention and share some of the numbers because I will have to vote on whatever motion comes before the systems and the SEMSCO. And I have never asked any of you for advice about how I ought to vote. And I thought that I would do that this time, although there's a caveat. Depending on how things go, I may not be able to or may not feel that I could vote the way you would direct me to vote. But I guess I would like to have some thoughts from you about that I can take with me to the state council meeting, because I think the consequences of this motion going forward as it stands has the potential to create some serious disruptions, I think, in certain systems around the state. So I'm going to throw it open to you, and I would like some thoughts about what I might do.
A quick question, I just wonder, and I don't know the answer obviously, I just wonder if any of the ALS agencies represented around the table here today do not have controlled substance licenses.
There are 347 agencies around the state that do, out of 612.
Apparently everybody, all the agencies represented here today have them.
That's my comment. I think we sit on the wrong side of the fence
Yeah,
as controlled substance
We're
agency.
kind of the choir, aren't we? Talking back to the
Yeah.
future.
We are, and we wouldn't, had we not felt strongly about this, number one, being the standard of care. That's where we started from. And, that's the standard. When I hear that, as a squad captain, that's what I have to live up to. It's my responsibility to take my agency to that level. And that's why Worcester has been, for many years now, a controlled substance agency. And so we are on that side of the fence.
Well, so are we. I mean, in our agency.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for 10 years. But I think there are some agencies that are providing good ALS that have some solid reasons for not doing it. I will tell you that everybody on the tag understands the necessity of everybody, or as many people as possible, eventually carrying controlled substances. No one argues with that or the beneficial results of carrying controlled substance. But I think some of us are struggling with the impacts that it might cause if people, for legitimate reasons, feel they can't comply.
We have, in Hamilton County, we have, the county I know the best, of course, we have some very small agencies indeed, but all of our ALS agencies, that's 7 out of 9 agencies in the county, all of them have controlled substance licenses, have had them for many years, and have really never found, I mean, there's some paperwork, of course there's paperwork. You would say in New York there's paperwork no matter where you go, but we've never really found it to be onerous enough that we would ever seriously consider giving up the licenses.
Right.
So for what it's worth,
Yeah, thanks. I agree with that.
And I think it was pretty clear in some of the responses that there's a lot of, I would say, ignorance or lack of knowledge about the process and how difficult it is or is not, and how onerous the paperwork is, etc.
Yeah.
So some of us are thinking that there's a bit of an educational component that's kind of missing here.
Yep.
There's certainly has to be somebody in charge of the paperwork, but that's true of any agency dealing with the state. There has to be somebody in that agency in charge of dealing with the paper.
Yeah.
And the paperwork for the narcotics, I mean, are they familiar with the whole process? I mean, to ask them to have an opinion, and maybe they're not educated on the narcotics process to begin with.
Right.
I mean, because that does seem to be a big thing, is the ignorance.
Right. They were aware that I think it's a rigorous process, but I think they were not, some of them were not aware of the actual details of it, or hadn't talked to some of their surrounding services that do it. Others were concerned about security issues, that they already have had break-ins at their fire departments. They're concerned about what their liability would be if somebody broke in and stole their narcotics, etc. Some of these concerns, I think, are overblown to a certain extent. But on the other hand, they're at a distance from this, and they're seeing that these things as a
Right, if they're not educated on what's all involved with it, I mean, that's how,
I find the most telling number in that 150 responses is that 47% of those 150 responses are already working on controlled substance plans.
right.
So my sense is we ought to do what we could to encourage them to complete those. And then there were another group of services that said, well, if they had to, they would try to go ahead and do it. So that's another group that we ought to go after.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, educate them a little bit on the the paperwork, the reasoning behind even having the narcotics on board, the importance.
Right.
I mean, we have an agency in Hamilton County that has one ALS provider on the Corps, and they have narcotics, and I think they had one administration last year, but they still, I don't think, would give it up. You
Right.
know?
Well, that's what some of the others said, you know, we only do 300 calls a year, and we had controlled substances, and we only used it once or twice a year, so we gave it up, because they were outdated, we had to go buy new, blah, blah, you know, which is too bad if they, you know. But anyway, that was also a concern that was
I'm
expressed.
sure that any of us representing smaller agencies would be more than happy to answer any phone calls or email inquiries we get about paperwork, et cetera. And the county or the county region has a template, controlled substance template plan available, which we'll gladly share with anybody who's interested.
Right.
I just wanted to check the numbers. You said you got 53% of the surveys of the 265 back. You got 140. 35% of those that you got back thought it was a good idea. 47% were working on one. And what was the number who thought it was bad? 52?
51%.
51% thought it was bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought it would have overall
Negative
negative impacts. Yeah.
Marco, did the original motion come with a due date?
Yeah, the original motion due date was by August 1st, 2014. One of our suggestions might be to extend that a bit because, for a couple of reasons. Sometimes the B&E takes a long time to process applications, and if they get a bunch all at once, that might hold things up. And these agencies and municipalities have to deal with budget issues and planning, so sometimes that takes more time too. So
I was
I'm
at
not
the
quite sure.
meeting when this was proposed, and I voted against it. I think I would vote against it now, in part because of this. If you don't do it by August 2014, you're done as ALS. When you ask the proposers, so what are you trying to accomplish here? What came back was, pain. Like pain? Since when is the mission of EMS to reduce pain? The proven benefit, particularly of the ALS systems, is cardiac response. Right? That's where you save lives. Trauma oftentimes can be BLS. I didn't quite understand, narcotics being the mission of EMS and making it synonymous with all ALS. Anticonvulsants is a better argument, right? Somebody's seizing all the way to the hospital. That can be bad for you. But that wasn't the thrust of their sense of when they say controlled substances, what's to be gained? Pain relief. Like, my sense of the system in New York is that this is sort of icing on a stale, collapsing cake. You have parts of the state that have no EMS, no BLS, no basic services, response times on the order of an hour. Nobody's addressing that. So if you talk about anticonvulsants, could, like in an intermediate period, if this was decided to be, a necessary step, a bigger window, and what could you do in the meantime? If somebody's seizing, could there be an ALS interest act specifically for anticonvulsant medications? Right? So to me, it's about what are you trying to address? If it's pain, have a nice day. You're going to be at it for quite a while. I don't think it's the original mission of EMS, and there's no evidence that you're going to save lives by giving narcotics. So Mark is going to do what he has to do. I think 51% against should definitely put pause into this process. The state can move, has moved, but they need a bigger window time-wise to get there. In the interim, I would address anticonvulsants first before I would narcotics.
Thanks, Gus. Appreciate that. Yes, Gus and Dr. Markowitz and I were sort of the voices in the wilderness when this all evolved. But And I think there are a number of people on the tag who have similar concerns, and certainly lengthening the window is one of the things that we'll probably suggest. So what I'm hearing, though, is all of you are all pretty positive about controlled substances, which is a good thing. And I think that all the tag members are as well. It's, as I have been saying, it's all about how we get there. And there's an old saying, and maybe this is my imminent geezer talking, but you get more flies with honey than you get with vinegar. So I think maybe we need to look at the approach that the CMAC is trying to take. So that's pretty much the end of my report.
Again, I would certainly invite any agency, anywhere in the state, not just within the region, any agency at all that has questions about this, to please contact one of us who've been doing it. And
Right.
we're more than happy to share our thoughts and all the rest of it.
Right, and I think that's an interesting addition to maybe my list of suggestions. Yeah.
We went through similar growing pains too when we went to mandating 12 leagues.
Yeah.
And end title.
And end title and
Full socks.
yeah.
Those things were all a lot more expensive than.
Yeah, I don't see the fiscal burden putting CS on board. I truly don't. I mean, you got to buy a lock. I mean, you know.
Well, you got to buy a
And
safe.
As far as liability, I think at this point, the people, specifically with the comment with regard to worries about being liable for having the liability incurred, I think your liability at this stage of the game is
Of not having it.
exactly
Yeah.
is not meeting a standard of care.
And that
Well,
was
especially
mentioned.
the benzo versus.
Right.
That was mentioned by one of the tag members. There's also this liability of not having them. So, and people need to think about that too. I agree.
Thank you, Mark.
So, as I said to Ron Hassan by email, I'll be glad when this meeting's over because this whole thing has been occupying way too much space on my hard drive. So,
The spreadsheet was just enormous. It was just,
I printed it out and put it on my kitchen table, and it was like 5 feet wide by 4 feet long or something, and I taped it all together, different. But anyway, thank you for your comments, and I'll keep all that in mind as we go through this meeting next week.
Thank you, Mark, for a very thoughtful report.
Okay.
Regional program directors have not met yet.
Okay, REMAX.
REMAC today approved new medical directors for Long Lake, Marydale, Courtright, Davenport, Oneonta State, and Gavac, right?
Right.
Gavac got added.
Gavac has a second medical director now.
There are some informational items about Hageman glucometers, ALS lockboxes, and Paseco ambulance, and primary operating territories between Milford and Cooperstown. We recommended to the committee, and you just approved new REMAC members, Dr. O'Cravi and Cronauer, is that his name?
Krautheimer, he didn't want to be a member of the REMAC. He was here. He was just here for informational purposes on his part.
So O'Cravi, and then we had an executive session. That's it.
The county reports.
Hamilton County.
Say Hamilton? Hamilton. Oh my gosh. I finally got something to report. I want everybody to grab onto the table or onto a chair. I don't want anybody falling off. We have 2 EMT courses in progress.
Wow.
One in the southern end of the county and one in the northern end of the county. The southern end of the county is lagging a little bit behind the northern end of the county. Now that's shocking. We have 15 students in speculator class. We have 27, get that now, 27 in Blue Mountain.
Are some of those deer?
I was thinking he
Population of 3 towns.
Run them out behind trees, under rocks, everything. This is like a last ditch effort. You know what I mean?
That's great.
But we've got them out, and they're going to class. They seem to be doing really well.
Amazing.
And
Where is that now?
Blue Mountain.
Blue Mountain. Okay.
That's tomorrow on Friday night.
Well, there is a little.
I haven't found it yet, though.
little incentive.
Yeah, sir.
And how many do you have in speculator?
I don't even think they have a farm in Blue
Okay.
Mountain.
I don't think so.
No?
But anyways,
That's quite a number.
we've got 6 refreshers in speculator. We have 9 new basic students. A couple are first responders that are going up to the EMT basic level. And we got a mixed match up in Blue Mountain. There are a couple that come down, you know, from Old Forge, but mostly from Inlet, Long Lake, Indian Lake,
Yeah.
and that.
That's
So,
42 people. That's about half the population of Holland County, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think you're joking.
Before the APA and the DEC drive them out, you know, so if they go to your area or wherever, they go to EMTs, you grab them. But I'm very glad to
That's
be able
terrific.
to say that, you know, and announce that we are doing really well. And hopefully in March, when they test, we'll have a bunch of new people out there.
That's great.
Okay, Fulton County, Jack?
Nothing new.
Okay, Montgomery County.
EMS Advisory met last week. One of the things that we did accomplish and one of the things we recognized was the delayed response and getting some ambulances rolling in Montgomery County. So EMS Advisory requested that the Sheriff's Office, instead of going to 3 sets of tones before they roll to the next mutual aid agency, they'll roll on the 2nd set of tones, which means within 4 minutes of a 911 call, either the original agency or 2 minutes of the original 911 call, the mutual aid agency will be dispatched with the original agency. So, we're going to do this on a 30-day trial, and there'll be some data collection points during the trial, and our next meeting will reevaluate and decide which direction we want to go with that. The only other thing we have is some training. We have a CME Marathon Day at GAVAC on October 10th where we're going to have a sim man there. So if anybody's interested in attending, please call our office and sign up for it. We're limited seating on that. So
What's the topic on your CV?
I think it's cardiac. Don't hold me to that though.
Oh, I'm going to.
And open recruitment.
Harry. Harry County?
Schoharie?
Schoharie.
Yeah.
Let's see. We, I guess the biggest news is we're in the middle of reorganizing the emergency services. They're talking about putting fire, EMS, EMO, safety, and at one point dispatch, which they've since taken out of the mix, putting all the departments together and calling it the Department of Emergency Services. They're in the process now of interviewing for a director to run the services. I haven't heard anything more about it. That's all behind closed doors, and we just get the finished product. So we'll see how that goes.
Otsego County.
Our basic EMS classes have started. I can't give you the numbers on those, but we also need to announce that we have a paramedic course that will be the first weekend in November. Second weekend in October, I think. Okay, I think second weekend in October.
I have that on the website, I think, Sid.
You do have it already?
I believe so, yes.
I was going to say we will forward that to the AAREMS website.
I believe it's there.
Yeah, I think that's great. We haven't done one of those in a long
Many
time,
years.
you know. I did it years ago, but
I think that's everything.
yeah.
Delaware.
CMT is struggling to become EPCR qualified, and I think I'll let Beth update you on that, but it's been a long road.
We are in the, thanks, love you too. We're in the final stages. We've just gotten our sign-on for the state link from Phil this week. We have had a limited few people beta driving the system so that we could catch errors, and our last hurdle was the how are we getting the information to the hospitals, and that seems to have been the biggest hurdle right along. and there's another person who's having the same problem. We finally decided that we're going with the program's hospital dashboard, and we'll be giving each hospital emergency department and medical records a sign-on where they can sign on and look at the calls that come to their hospital in order so that they can print them and add them to the charts. So we're very, very close to having a total rollout. Joyce will thank me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now I have 3 EMT classes ongoing throughout the county, ranging anywhere from 15 to 35, I think is what Dave has in his class in Stanford. In the middle of October we should be starting a critical care original refresher class in Delhi, which preliminarily looks like it'll have more than 20 people in it, drawing from at least 3 counties. So,
Steve, was there something sent out about that?
well, not yet, I haven't.
Okay, I was
I'm
wondering
kind of
why I
waiting
missed it.
for the approval to come back from the state.
Gotcha. I didn't miss it.
Other than that, that's about it.
Any old business? Any new business?
Beth had something she wanted to report to us on.
Many of us hate the words HIPAA, but there's a lot of new standards being rolled out for HIPAA. They were rolled out in March, and the compliance deadline is Monday. If you are a covered entity, and if you bill, you are a covered entity. Other than that, you're going to have to check with your department attorney to see if you are in a covered entity. Your notice of privacy practices has to be revised to include certain things. It has to be posted on your website if you own a website. You have to conduct an updated risk analysis. You have to update all of your business associate agreements. I said updating the notice of privacy practices. Update your HIPAA policies, train your HIPAA policies, and be prepared for a new wave of enforcement. The first round of enforcement is going to be this Office of Civil Rights looking at websites to make sure that the privacy notice of privacy practices have been posted and that they are updated and in compliance with the new changes. The new changes on the practices include a description and uses of disclosure requiring authorization, separate statements for certain uses and disclosures. You can't disclose any. Each time you disclose something with someone who has a psychiatric diagnosis, you have to get a written permission each time. Enhanced patients' rights and breach notification obligations. So this is something that's recently hit our radar, but it's pretty big.
Is that a signature from the psychiatric patient?
I don't know. It says,
If that's the case, we'll never know who's gonna show up with a gun next.
That's the HIPAA police.
We will, you just have to get them to sign the paper before they shoot you.
and the other thing is they can like opt out on, if they contact you, they have the right to opt out on having any of their private information used to bill insurance agencies if they pay you in full out of pocket.
Right.
So.
That's how the hospital has to do it, same way.
Same, yeah, well, these are the general, they apply to all of us. So,
I'm still finding that a lot of the agencies that are billing through a billing company don't realize that they're covered entities under HIPAA. So if you know of any agencies that bill, small agencies or some tiny agencies that are billing now through the billing companies, please make sure that they know that they have to comply with HIPAA.
Yeah, I think many of these services who use billing companies are not aware that the services are liable for any errors that the billing companies make.
but this is, because your even if it's a paper PCR, your billing company or your billers are electronically transmitting to Medicare. And that brings them right into being a covered entity. And one of the things I said to Phil, you know, ultimately I'm responsible. I send a package of pink PCRs to Phil and Joyce for data entry.
Yellow piece.
They send them on, yeah, yellow.
Yeah.
They send them on to somebody for data entry. Where do they go after that? I'm ultimately responsible. Are they ending up in a landfill, or I'm
They're
responsible?
shredded after the,
So, you know, that's the kind of thing, you know, that's the type of thing that, and the updated business associate agreements, they've expanded the list on who you need business associate agreements with, including your shredders. And just, it's very big, so if you know you're a covered entity and haven't heard about this, you might want to do some poking around online. There are some great webinars. And of course, the ever-present EMS lawyers have these great $500 packages. Buy this, fill in the forms, and we'll help you get through this. But the first compliance date is Monday. And if you're not sure you're a covered entity, get to your lawyer.
Beth mentioned websites. Any website regarding your company or specific websites regarding patient care in your company?
In terms of what?
You said something about having to post your.
Oh, you have to
complaints.
post your privacy notice on your company website.
And then does that follow over to social media?
I do not believe so. This is also the high-tech revision. This is in bringing in all of the fact that we've become an electronic world. It said about the posting it. A health plan that, well, this is, I picked this up off of that currently posts its NPP on its website must prominently post or change or revise its revised NPP on the website by September 23rd, 2013. All it says is website.
If you post it, you must have the update on it. So if you don't post it.
So I'm not sure. You could read it that way, but the regulators could say you have a website, you must post it. So
I read it that way, unless I have to pay my lawyer $500 to read it a different way.
well, otherwise you have to provide no, that's for health plans.
Yeah, I'm just looking if we have to do it on our site, or we also, are they chasing social media? So if you've got a company Facebook page, are you also
Yeah, and it's just saying website
doesn't
here.
sound like you do, but
Yeah.
thank you.
But that's, you know, it's as I said, this is something that we are late on the bandwagon, but I figured that everybody ought to know about it if they haven't heard about it.
Appreciate that, thank you. Next to that, the controlled substance paperwork is walk in the park, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, any other new business? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Come over.
Yes, that's the one.
We next meet on October 17th,
All right.
right here. We'll have a